Hi guys, welcome back to my video blog. I'm Danny, the figure. So today we're going to be speaking about two things: producing colostrum and storing it pre-birth, and also the EpiNo. So I was going to do these ones the week I had Harper, but I didn't get them done because she came a week early. So that's why I thought I'd do it now. I think they're really important as well to talk about. So just a little bit of background on the colostrum expressing story. So at our birthing class at 32 weeks, one of the girls had asked a question to the midwife around, could you express colostrum? She'd heard about it before and what her thoughts around it were. And I had never heard of it before. And it was really interesting. She said, yeah, it's great if you can do it. In the lead up to the birth, then that would be fabulous. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. Let me look into it more. And I didn't really know what colostrum was before then either. So I found out that it was the first milk that you produce prior to having the baby, before your actual milk comes in. And some women start producing it in the first trimester. Other women don't start producing it till a bit later. And I hadn't really, as I said, I hadn't really thought anything of it. And I was only 32 weeks at this stage as well. And the research I was doing was mentioning 36, 37 weeks to when it was starting to come in. So I sort of just did some research, put it on the back burner. And then I was at my mum's and Bob's fitness class at Firm Butts Fitness in Port Melbourne. And one of the girls, I think I must have been around 35 weeks. And one of the girls was like, oh, have you started producing any colostrum? And I was like, oh, it's funny that you mentioned that. I was like, I heard about this the other day, and I hadn't noticed that I was producing any. And she was like, oh, if you can express some beforehand, they're really good for babies. It's basically liquid gold. And she was saying how it's great for their immunity, and it's great in the first few days of life. But then also she was storing it, as she had a 3-month-old. She was storing it, and if the baby was getting sick or something, she was then giving the baby the colostrum that she'd expressed prior to birth. So I found that really interesting. But I hadn't noticed that I was leaking anything out of my breasts or anything. So I was like, oh, I'm not producing it. So I went back home and I was talking to one of my best friends who has a baby, and she said, oh, sometimes you might just notice a bit of like dischargy color on your bra at the end of the day. And I was like, oh, it's not something I'd been looking for. So I hadn't thought to look. And so right then and there, I looked at my bra and I was like, oh my God, there's some like white stuff on my bra. And she was like, yeah, that's the colostrum. And I was like, oh, maybe I am producing it. So I would have been about 36 weeks at this stage. So Chris came home from work. I think I'd gone to get some syringes at some stage. So I had some in the house, thinking, I'd like to do it if I could. I said, when he came home, I said, oh, let's try and do this. Let's try and express the colostrum. And he was like, okay. Anyway, so he sort of massaged the breast like they say to do, just to warm it up, and then started hand expressing onto a spoon, and well and behold, it was coming out. Only very small amounts, but it was coming out. And so it was very exciting. So basically just squeezing the breast, just expressing the colostrum. Hi, Missy. She's having a sleep. Onto a sterilized spoon, and then syringing it up into the syringe. So it was all very exciting. I was really excited that I was going to be able to have this for her in the first few days of life, because that's what she feeds off in the first few days, and that Chris could give it to her, but also that I could have some in the freezer for maybe a rainy day when she did get sick or she needed something as well. So at the start, I was only getting a couple of mils each breast. And then I was taking my lactation cookies by Milk and Cookies by Jules, which are delicious. So I was having one a day from 36 weeks, and that really helped bring in my colostrum. So I was then doing it once to twice a day. By the end, I was getting 10 mils at a time, and we had a whole array of syringes. So it was a really good experience. So if you can do it. Check with your obstetrician or GP first before you start. It can cause some sort of fake contractions and things like that. So just get the all clear from your doctor before you do it. It shouldn't hurt or anything. So if you're experiencing anything like that, make sure you do talk to your doctor. But yeah, when she was born, she latched on really well. So she was just feeding off the colostrum for the first couple of days. But on about day 2, she just wouldn't latch, and I was getting a bit frustrated, and the midwife just said, we've got the colostrum in the fridge. So her and Chris went and defrosted the colostrum, put it in a little bottle. So then Chris was able to feed her as well, which was such a beautiful experience for him, which meant he could feed her and we could still give her the colostrum, and not have to sort of put her on formula just because she wasn't latching so well. So that was really lovely as well. Just recently, so she's 2.5 weeks old now. The last few days she's been getting a little bit of sort of gunky eyes. I think newborns get that. Not conjunctivitis, but sort of yucky eyes. So we gave her a syringe of colostrum 2 nights ago, and it's cleared up since then. So it is liquid gold. So as I said, if you can do it, it's fabulous. So once you've put it in the syringes, just make sure you label it. And then pop it in the freezer in a Ziploc bag. You can freeze it for up to 3 months in a normal freezer, or up to 12 months in a deep freeze. And then once you take it out of the freezer and defrost it, you need to use it within a few hours, and just run it under hot water to defrost it. But yeah, it's really great. So please let me know if you have managed to do it as well. I love to hear stories. And if you have any questions, please let me know as well. I'm happy to help and share my story around the colostrum. Awesome. So the other thing I wanted to speak about on this vlog was the EpiNo that I was using. So this is it. So I'll tell you a little backstory about this as well. So when we first had our appointment with our obstetrician, one of my questions and fears at the time, things change, but anyway, was I really didn't want to tear. For some reason, I didn't mind going through labour or even actually having the baby. My fear was tearing or having to have an episiotomy. So I said, is there any way I can do as much as possible to prevent that from happening? So he recommended perineal massage, but then he also recommended the EpiNo. He gave me a pamphlet on it and said to look into it, and sort of gave me a brief rundown of what it was. So it was used to stretch the perineum area, ready for childbirth. And it's also used as a pelvic floor exercise tool as well. So I did some research, looked into it, asked some questions. As I mentioned, Mum's a doctor, and I asked her and she said, look, it couldn't hurt to use as well. The statistics on it were really good as well. So, you know, all the women that had used it had minimal tearing, if not no tearing, and reduced the need for an episiotomy as well. So when they cut you. So I thought, hey, what the hell? I may as well give it a go. So I went and got it. It wasn't the cheapest thing. I think it was $188, but you know, this is something that I really wanted to do. So I'll show you. So basically, comes this beautiful little bag. It looks like sort of a blood pressure pump, if you like. So you've got this end with your blood pressure pump with your little dial here, and then you've got this end. So this end you pop inside your vagina, so halfway, so to the halfway mark. And the initial stages of it, all the instructions are in there, but it's just to use your pelvic floor exercises for 10 minutes. So squeezing it and releasing it until you see the little dial go up and down. Just to show that you're using the right muscles down there, because sometimes women are confused as to how to use those muscles. So it's really good, because if you are using them correctly, the dial goes up when you're holding your pelvic floor and then releases when you release. So it's a really good way of seeing if you're using the correct muscles. Once you've done that for 10 minutes, the second stage starts. So you start pumping it up. So as you can see, as I pump it up, it gets bigger. So you are supposed to start this from 37 weeks, which I did. I went into labour at 38.5 weeks, so I only got to use it 4 times. I probably should have used it a bit more, but I don't know why I didn't, but anyway, I think you're supposed to use it every day. I only used it every second or third day. But anyway, so you pump it up to where it's comfortable. Over the course of the 3 weeks, if you do get to go to full term, which I didn't, the idea is to get to 10 centimeters in diameter. Now, this is supposed to reflect the size of the baby's head as they come out. So the idea is to get to your full 10 centimeters, which I'll stop now, but you can keep going. So you get this little card that shows you how many centimeters it is. So initially I only got to, I think it was 4 centimeters. And then over the course of the time that I was using it, I think I got to 7 centimeters, which would have been actually about that, probably. Yeah, that's about 7 centimeters. So you pump it up to as much as you can. So obviously the initial stages, you might only get a little far, and then you just leave it in there for 10 minutes, breathe through it while it's in there. And then after 10 minutes, you just pull it out, and that's supposed to simulate a head coming out of your vagina, which is childbirth. Then each time you do it, the idea is that you can try and do a little bit more each time and get a little bit wider, and it slowly stretches and softens the perineum area. Then when you finish, you can just turn the dial down and it releases the balloon back to normal. So as I said, I used it, I think 4 or 5 times before, and I got to 7 centimeters. Now I did tear, but I only had a 1st degree tear, and it was very, very small with just 2 little stitches. But the main reason that happened to me though is because she needed to be vacuum extracted because she was posterior and wasn't coming down by herself. And then I had the manual removal of my placenta as well, which meant the obstetrician had to put his whole arm in there to get my placenta out. So he said to me afterwards, I did ask him about it. I said, oh, do you think the EpiNo helped? And he did say that absolutely. He said with the type of birth you had, I hadn't used it, I would have had a much worse tear and more stitches. So he said absolutely it worked perfectly. And I was really happy with it. So as I said, I had 2 tiny stitches, which I didn't even notice. Like, that hasn't bothered me at all. So I highly recommend this. So I know it's a lot to fork out, but if you are worried about those sorts of things, because, you know, we all worry about different things when it comes to childbirth, I really recommend it. So it's called the EpiNo. Obviously, I can't resell it to anybody because that's really gross and it's not recommended, but so don't try and get one secondhand. But yeah, I would highly recommend it. So it really helped me and it created a better experience for my childbirth as well. So that's it. So I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have any questions about either of those 2 things, the colostrum expressing or the EpiNo, please let me know. Harper's waking up, which means I gotta go, but I can't wait to speak to you guys next time.